cannot be limited, particularly because of the aspect on the cost, which cost can be managed because the law provides on how to bill, and it also limits under the advocate's remuneration order the amount of legal fees that one is expected to charge. Madam Speaker, that is forming the basis of the recommendations made, and as we do this recommendation, Madam Speaker, I take note of the fact that the joint committee was expected to engage, particularly at the level of the county governments, where the committee relevant to deal with this particular petition was the Committee on Devolution, but because the aspect of legal fees dealt with the jailer committee, that formed the position that was agreed in a consensus mode. Lastly, Madam Speaker, I appreciate the fact that the Office of the Clerk and the Office of the Speaker indeed supplied this committee with relevant services, and I take this early opportunity to appreciate and thank the Office of the Speaker as well as the Clerk of the Senate for the support that was extended to this joint committee in undertaking this very important petition. And lastly, the stakeholders that submitted before us, the various stakeholders who are key players in this sector, indeed supplied us with very important information that fed into this report. The unfortunate thing, Madam Speaker, is the absence of any interest from the Office of the Attorney General that should have created more interest. And I want to take this early opportunity to encourage the Attorney General and the Office of the Solicitor General to take serious the summons and also the requisitions that would go out of this House, because without their input, Madam Speaker, we lose a lot of public interest aspect that would be taken care of by the Office of the Auditor General. As to whether or not this can speak to the commitment and the respect that the Office of the AG takes to this House, Madam Speaker, I leave that to the judgment of the Office of the AG, because they cannot claim not to have been notified, they cannot claim not to have had a personnel to ensure that they give their input to this very critical aspect, and this is something that has a lot of public interest, and it was expected that the Office of the AG would have played a role as to whether it is something that they could support, or to give a guide in terms of the recommendations which would be very relevant to this particular petition. And Madam Speaker, therefore, I now submit this report and ask the honorable members to support this report, as I request the Honorable Senator for Nairobi County, my good friend, Senator Edwin Sifuna, to second. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you, Senator Sige. Senator Sifuna.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second. Let me just first of all take this opportunity to thank the committee, the joint committees of JLAC and the Committee on Devolution for the good work that they have done. Although, Madam Speaker, I really wish, and we were just having this discussion with the Senator from Narok, I wish that the recommendations of the committee were stricter than what have been recommended. Madam Speaker, yesterday we woke up to a headline story that there is one lawyer who represented the county government of Nairobi in a suit involving a land squabble between the county government of Nairobi and the military. Honorable Speaker, that lawyer has been awarded 1.3 billion Kenya shillings as legal fees for a case that was involving the military, and which is an arm of government, or one section of government, and a county government. And Honorable Speaker, the most interesting bit is that that case was actually withdrawn by consent, which tells you the county government sat down with the military and agreed to withdraw the case on certain terms. Now, the court is telling the Nairobi County government to pay that 1.3 billion Kenya shillings within 60 days. We as senators here know for a fact that when we pass the disbursement schedule for monies to come from the national government to go to counties, if you look at the disbursement schedule for Nairobi, that is the equivalent of 1 month's disbursement from Exchequer to the Nairobi County government. And then the court is telling us to pay this one individual 1.3 billion Kenya shillings in 60 days. When I was in law school, we learned that the court should not issue orders in vain. My senior here retired Justice Mazayo, you know for a fact, it doesn't matter what you do. There is no way Nairobi County can pay 1.3 billion Kenya shillings in 60 days. It is not possible. And Madam Speaker, the reason why I was saying the committee should have gone further is because if you look at the total pending bills for Nairobi, which stand over 100 billion Kenya shillings, 20 billion Kenya shillings is pending bills owed to advocates. I can say here without fear or favor that although I am an advocate myself, lawyers in this country have abused this legal fees system in our counties to siphon money from county governments and from the people of the country, and especially the people of Nairobi. It's unconscionable because the remuneration order, Honorable Speaker, when the committee says that the bill should be charged according to the remuneration order, the remuneration order says you use the value of the property to calculate your fees. But Honorable Speaker, if a matter is involving land of half an acre or land of 300 acres, though the value of land changes or varies, the issues involved in that particular legal case, and the good thing is, Chair, you are also a lawyer, they are not different. It's the same law, it's the same dispute, and Honorable Speaker, it's unconscionable for us as legal practitioners to do what is happening in our counties. I was elected, the first time I was ever elected to anything, Honorable Speaker, was to the Council of the Law Society of Kenya in 2016. I am a former council member of the LSK. And although the conversation there is that we should not shrink the practice areas for lawyers, or that we should not try and limit the amount of money that lawyers can charge for as long as it is legal, we are abusing this system. I don't think even the LSK itself can accept what is happening in our counties when it comes to legal fees. So, Honorable Speaker, for me, this petition was a solid petition. And if you look at the feedback that has come from the county governments themselves, they're saying that the internal lawyers that are supposed to be deployed under the county attorney office, sometimes that these matters are of complex nature that require special expertise. I can assure you, Honorable Speaker, that matter that was handled by this so-called expert lawyer that is being paid 1.3 billion Kenya shillings can very well be handled by a young lawyer who would not demand this same fees, especially where the matter is resolved in the manner in which this one was resolved. So this question of expertise is being abused. I have every faith in every advocate who has qualified to be able to handle any matter, although we don't discount the value of experience. But Honorable Speaker, I insist that this thing called expertise is being misused, and it is the reason why you find counties justifying the need to hire external counsel. They are saying there is low remuneration for the in-house counsel working in counties. There is insufficient budget to the office of the county attorney. But all this would be resolved if the money that we are spending, if you took the 1.3 billion Kenya shillings that we are supposed to pay this external lawyer, Honorable Speaker, and put it in the office of the county attorney, I am sure this insufficiency of budget and the other issues would not arise. So, Honorable Speaker, I would have loved for us to agree in total with the petitioner. But of course, they will say, oh, you are cutting out external legal practitioners from business, that it is unconstitutional or it is unfair. But Chair, I hope that the JLAC committee and even the Committee of Devolution will sit down with the Law Society of Kenya, and there's a good thing that we have a very good president now at the LSK, and say there are things that are happening in our counties that are not acceptable. It is not acceptable for you as an individual. And you will find this lawyer resides in Nairobi, he's always complaining about the state of roads in his estate. And yet he's taking 1.3 billion shillings for himself, one person. And Nairobi gets 20 billion Kenya shillings every year in terms of exchequer, Madam Speaker. How can you as one person take 1 out of 20 billion Kenya shillings and then you want to complain about the roads in Karen? It is not fair. It is absolutely unfair. And the Law Society of Kenya should have a conversation with its members that whereas we don't want to lock you out of county business, it is unconscionable for one person to take such an amount from a county that is struggling to buy drugs for its residents. Honorable Speaker, I want to also address, because I am a member of the County Public Accounts Committee, and although Nairobi has the bulk of the pending bills when it comes to legal at 20 billion, This question is repeated in all other counties. And we have seen examples of very simple and straightforward matters, where you ask the county governor, what justification do you have to pay a lawyer externally, instead of using the capacity that you have at the county government? There are questions of how those lawyers are procured, Honorable Speaker. And if you look at Nairobi, for instance, once the lawyers have gotten execution orders, the CEO of finance in Nairobi is always in the cells. They get orders to arrest her every Friday to force the county government to pay. But the county government has no money to pay these people. So even if you were to jail the chief officer for finance for 3 months or 6 months, your money will not be paid. So we have this specter of 20 billion shillings in unpaid legal bills. And it is unmanageable. I know that many counties have set up task forces to look into the veracity of some of these claims. But again, there was a court in Kitale that said it's only the Auditor General who can tell us which pending bills are payable and which ones are not payable, that those task forces that had been established by counties were illegal. Even here in Nairobi, we had a pending bills verification task force led by Kamodho Iganjo. The entire work that they did, Honorable Speaker, to tell us which bills are payable and which ones are not, was trashed by the courts. So you find that county governments are increasingly finding themselves in a very difficult situation, Honorable Speaker. Because if you try to look at the veracity of these bills, some of them are admittedly not payable because of the manner in which the procurement was done. The amount of work that was done is not commensurate to what these lawyers are asking for. So for me, really, because after the enactment of the county attorney's law, many of these counties have now employed legal staff in their ranks. And even we as a Senate here, we have our own lawyers, and they go to court to defend this institution. I think there should be a sunset clause. Maybe if the Council of Governors feel that the capacity is not where it needs to be, it's not at optimum, the chair for JLAC, I would propose that we set a sunset clause, that in the next 5 years, all counties must have developed that capacity so that you cannot give us as an excuse that you have inadequate staffing or that they don't have capacity to handle complex legal matters. For those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I second the motion, but with the rider that I think we should have made more far-reaching recommendations in order to stop this practice in our counties. I thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Senator Sifuna. Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the Senate adopts the report of the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations and Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs, and Human Rights on a petition to the Senate by Mr. Laban Omosudi concerning restraining county governments from hiring law firms to represent them in court cases, laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 3rd April 2020.